The first time we met him, I was actually there with a group of some board members, and he pulled me right aside and we had a really great, engaging conversation about the work, about why he creates. And I immediately realized how much humanity was in each of these abstract paintings, which is, as a curator, you often there's a battle dealing with abstract work. And especially in a community like Bakersfield, I sometimes have to make an argument for abstract work. And so feeling that instantly whenever I met Arnoldi, I knew that I could bring this into this space and really tell a really interesting story. The Bakersfield Museum of Art was established in 1956 with a gift from the Osborne family, which is a family who's lived in Bakersfield since the early 1900s. And they had a daughter who grew up in Bakersfield and then went on to study at Stanford. She studied art and then went and lived in San Francisco. She became a prolific screen printer, and her name was Marion Osborne Cunningham. She had an unfortunate death at the age of 37, and upon that death, her family wanted to do something to maintain her legacy. And they gave a monetary gift to the city of Bakersfield along with a collection of her work, and the museum was started with that. We have since made it our mission to document California artists, modern and contemporary California artists. We have a growing permanent collection. We have 12 exhibitions a year, constant rotating. Being a smaller community, we realize that it is our duty to serve the members of this community. We don't rely on tourism as much. What we are here to do is create a living, breathing kind of cultural hub for Bakersfield.
I can't remember, we got a phone call or an email or something from the Bakersfield Museum. And they were interested in doing a show. And they had done some shows of other Southern California artists, and I thought, well, that's interesting, but I've never been to Bakersfield before. And without sounding terrible, I mean, it seems like a out-of-the-way place. And so when they approached me, my first instinct was, why? Although I am of the school that you never turn a museum down. That's old school. It's always great to have a museum show, but anyway, Rachel came to visit me.
I was able to head down to Arnoldi Studio, which is an incredible place. It's a museum-worthy studio. Any artist would be envious of the space. But it was really a great opportunity for me to see the work firsthand and understand a little bit more about Arnoldi and his process.
And she is so enthusiastic, and she had done a lot of research. She really wanted to do what she called a retrospective. And I told her that I couldn't have a retrospective in Bakersfield because the museum's not big enough. I have made thousands of works of art. But her enthusiasm was really contagious, and I said, look, you can do a survey, but you can't call it a retrospective.
Bringing in a world-known artist like Charles Arnoldi allows us to really do a service to not just members of the community of Bakersfield, but also Arnoldi is an artist, and so we're really serving the artists of this community with this exhibition.
And this work covers about 50 years.
I was able to really turn this show into a conversation about the last 50 years of art history, not just California's art history, but more internationally. And it has allowed me to have some really interesting conversations that I have not yet got to have here at the museum. Yeah, this was a difficult show to curate, actually, because Chuck has evolved rapidly. you look at one painting next to another one in this space, and they look like they might not even be from the same artist.
By and large, people don't know the work. And they walk around and they would go, "Oh my God, you did that? When did you do that? And it's interesting because they were really engaged and they started seeing similarities and making contact between pieces, which is what I hope for, You never know what to expect, but the enthusiasm from the crowd, and I got up and, Rachel gave a little talk, and then I was open for Q&A, right? And they were just pummeling away. They just were so enthusiastic. And it's always nice to see something like this when people that don't know it can start to make relationships with it.
So making a space that was cohesive, yet told a 50-year story of an artist's work, was difficult. And I kept referencing, as I was selecting work for the show, my first experience walking into Chuck's studio and seeing all of these different series in one space. And what I gained from that experience was the thread that connected each of them. And to each of them, they have this connecting thread of process, how Chuck created them. Whenever you look at any of this work, you are forced to consider the artist's process.
My job isn't to recreate the wheel or anything, I'm just trying to make a valid painting. I get ideas, I see a thing in my head and I feel like I have to do that. And it's like, wow, that's so obvious, why didn't I think of it sooner? But you can't, you have to work through these things until somehow something pops in here and you realize, hey, there's another move to make.
And oftentimes we get in front of a painting and we just think about the subject matter or we think about the color even, but this work forces, there's a brutal masculinity in each of these pieces.
I thought, okay, I'll just make paintings and I'll just make brush strokes like this, rather than, when I come up with an idea and I just do it, and I don't figure out how to do it, I just improvise. And after the fact, frequently people ask me a question like that, and I go, I can't remember.
Yeah.
Because I mean, at the time, I might have just grabbed a spatula,
something that was,
and he was just sitting here. It wasn't like I, figured it out, premeditated and everything. It just happened spontaneous.
You want to think about how and why it was created. So moving from that thread, I knew that I wanted to do a survey and kind of highlighting the earliest work that everybody has seen. We've had these stick pieces and the chainsaw pieces that are very aggressive. And then he kind of floats into the middle of his career with these really beautiful two-dimensional paintings that kind of, he abandons this playing with materials and just focuses on these incredibly formal paintings that are dealing with form, shape, and color. And then the newest body of work, which was inspired by his trip to Machu Picchu.
And I do feel very unique and fortunate in that I haven't stopped. I mean, I'm still reinventing myself constantly in the studio, and I'm still physically and mentally capable of doing that.
In order to make the show really cohesive, I included a lot of the works on paper, which was a great way for me to give little glimpses of those connecting moments between each of the series. When you look from one year to the next, you wonder how that evolution could have happened, but it's in these little preparatory sketches that you see one shape morphing into the next, and it really helps connect and tell that whole story. In order for him to comprehend what it meant to be a successful artist, he often talks about how he had to do something that nobody had done before, enter the stick drawings, and where he was really trying to be very innovative with the materials that he was using. And he's even mentioned to me that at that point in his career, in order to be taken seriously, not only did he have to create something that had never been done before, but things had to be serious, which meant straight lines. That's when we have all those diagonal shapes, and it wasn't until the late 80s when he started even adding a curved shape into the work. And I love the realization that he had with adding a curved line, that was truly a human shape. All humans have the hand to wrist, to elbow, to shoulder, and it's a natural shape to make a curved shape. And so in the next 10 years of work, he was only doing curved shapes, really kind of exploring this idea of what it meant to be an artist, what it means to be a human creating art. And I think looking through the later work with that lens and his realization and not having this young artist kind of ego, I have to create something new. There's something really grounded to this later work. And now he is doing harsh straight lines again, but he had to go there, and I love that there was that exploration and realization for the artist. What's fascinating about Arnoldi is he has this innate desire to constantly recreate, to totally dissect the process of creating abstract paintings. And I don't think he will ever completely find a resolution to these questions, because he talks about every day he goes into the studio and his role as an abstract painter is to create a problem and then solve it. But there are these threads that are really stunning, and there's a connectivity between each of these with the forms and the shapes, and they're just really beautiful works at the end of the day.
One thing that's kind of really nice for me is that they're all mine.